And funny enough, I didn't see the kid for like almost 13 years. We have so many dentists that after a few years, they actually quit. They go into other stuff. They become business owners. They actually manage dental offices. They don't actually do any work. Reading that, memorizing, and then doing the exams back to back to back. It's all part of the process. But that's what makes you strong. All that suffering then is helping me now. It's all about the team. By myself, I'm nothing without my team. That to be my career. So I want to be a grandmaster.
There you go. Enough. We found something.
I want to be a grandmaster, yeah. Don't be in a rush to get out and get in. There's always time to get to your dreams. I was always in a rush. I was like, do this, do this, do this, do this. But
me too.
Even, so I never, took 2 years off and traveled. I never did that.
Hello, I'm Sarush. Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Scrubs on CubeCast, a new and original podcast show. Please join me as I go behind the scenes in the healthcare industry where I invite doctors, practitioners, and healthcare providers when we learn about their original stories. It's an opportunity for us to learn about their ups and downs, their challenges, their success stories, but more importantly about what they want to add and pass on to the next generation of doctors and practitioners. It's a special honor for me to have my guest here tonight. He's not only a very successful practitioner, clinician, but a successful business owner, an athlete, a father, a husband, and a good friend of mine, someone who I've had a privilege of knowing for so many years, but being on the soccer field all the time, every weekend. He's a dentist, none other but Dr. Sheran Nai.
Thank you, Suresh. Thank you.
Pleasure to have you on the show, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me.
So many accolades, man. So many things to list, and it's an honor to have you here. And thanks for joining me on Beyond the Scrubs.
Thank you.
First and foremost, can you introduce us, to the guests and to our audience, who you are, and where you practice and everything?
100%. So my name is Dr. Sheran Nai. I've been in practice since 1999. I have two offices, Eagle Creek Dental, and my new office, the Dental Lounge at Brentwood.
So you just opened the one in Brentwood, right?
Yes, just about. It's been about a year now. About a year, and it's a great office. Very excited about it. It kind of gave me that second wind, the second energy to keep going.
Nice. And can you tell us how many years you've been in practice?
Yeah, so 1999, I graduated from UBC. I did a year of GPR, which is General Practice Residency, and that was actually the best thing I ever did because that allowed me to work in the hospital, work with all sorts of patients, and learn a lot about dentistry that we don't learn in school. It actually gave me a lot of experience and allowed me to kind of come into the real world with a lot of experience instead of coming out scared like most new grads do. Yeah.
So you finished your dentistry and then you did an extra year of residency before you came to private practice.
So the extra year of residency, at that time, UBC was offering this program. I'm not sure if it's still around, but it was a great way to get into a hospital setting. You work with the best clinical instructors in every different specialty. So you have a root canal specialty, you have surgery, you have general dentistry, and all these fields you rotate through, and you learn a lot about dentistry in those settings. So in school, you're required to finish a little bit amount of prerequisites, and you could do a few fillings here, a few crowns here, a couple of root canals, and then you're done. And then in the residency program, you actually get into depth and you learn a lot more and in a lot more detail. So it makes you very comfortable when you come out.
So you've been in practice since 1999?
1999, yes.
25 years, man.
I know. Time flies by.
Time flies by. Yeah, I was in high school in 1999. You look great, man.
Well, you gotta. One of the things I always learned, even when I was in dental school, actually at UBC, was how I felt when I kept in shape. It allowed me to study better. It allowed me to actually focus better. So it almost became a pattern of mine. If I didn't do my whether it was soccer or workout or hitting the gym, I felt I couldn't study as much. It really went hand in hand. And even to this day, if I miss a day at work, day in the gym, when I go to work, I don't have that energy.
You don't have the energy zone.
When I
exactly
work on the
same
morning
way,
before I come into work, I got so much energy. My staff's like, "What? How many coffees have you had?" I walk in
like
there
a
and
smile
I'm
in your face
I'm
when you walk in.
smiling. I'm like snapping.
What
I'm like, go, go, go. So it makes a big difference for
that's
sure.
really, that must be like good to have that every day. I know you work at like 6-7 days a week. Come
That's my
to work
dopamine.
with a smile. Your staff must love you, huh?
I need that. Yeah, for sure. I hope they love me.
Yeah, I'm sure
I might make them work too hard.
Your energy is awesome. So, for some of the audience, tell me about like what a day-to-day dentistry life is like, and what you do exactly. How many days a week do you work? So give us an insight of
So when I got out of school, like I said, I did the year residency, and then I was very lucky to get into an office where another dentist had retired. So I walked in an office with almost 4,000 patients. So right off the bat, I was into a very busy office.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sitting around waiting for patients to arrive in the door.
And that's not a common thing, right?
That's not common. That's not common at all. Most people get out, they'll start a practice up from scratch, and they'll build it up slowly. So for me, because I've done my residency, when I got into this office, I could handle the load, and it made a huge difference. And I could see the patients, and right off the bat, I got so much more experience seeing all these wonderful patients in Burnaby. And then in 2010, I decided to separate from this office into another location because I was growing so fast, and push forward to 2022 when I decided to even get to a larger space because my office was growing a lot faster than we had capacity for.
So open a second location.
And I opened a second location, exactly, with a much bigger footprint, many more operatories, so I can handle the patient load.
Okay, so like the day-to-day kind of life of you, how many hours do you work? How many days a week do you work? Kind of for people to get a sense of like what regular day-to-day.
Yeah, so I'm not your average dentist. So most dentists will work 3 days. They'll go golfing a couple of days a week. Very relaxed. I work 5 days a week.
Okay.
I love what I do. I enjoy what I do, and I start very early. So I'm probably one of the few patients that starts at 7 in the morning. I see my first patient.
People come at 7 to do dent.
They love it. Surprisingly,
really?
That's my busiest time because they come before going to work. So
they get their dental work done before they go to work.
They want to come and get their work done before they go to work. And I find that a lot of patients after work, they're tired. Who wants to go to the dentist after work? When you're early in the morning, you get it done.
But at least
get
you
out
can
of the
go
way.
home and like relax after, man.
So it depends what kind of dentist. Obviously, if you're taking out a wisdom tooth, they're not going to go to work after. But for most minor stuff like fillings and general stuff, they'll come before work and then they'll go to work. So my hours are, my hours have shifted over the years, but initially it used to be 7 to 4. Then during COVID, we went 7 to 1 for a while because I had another dentist that would work 1 to 7. So we didn't want to overlap. But now I work 7 to 1 in my my older office, and I go from 1 to 5 in my new office. So I work 7 to 5, 5 days a week.
5 days a week, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And what is a typical number of patients you see on average per day?
Yeah, so it can vary, but on average, I would say I probably see 20 to 30 patients a day. Then we have our hygienist that each see about 10 patients a day. So that's another 30 patients that I do checkups on. So typically I talk and meet 60 people a day. Like that's my norm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure you get a lot of interactions and pretty cool experiences with that, huh?
Yeah, a lot of good experiences. Again, I think no one likes coming to the dentist, right? That's the biggest fear. So we have a lot of patients, and you can tell. When the patient comes in, the first thing they say is, I don't want to be here. I don't like dentists. Right away, they're anxious. So you have to kind of be very gentle, very warm, kind of put them at ease, and explain to them what you're doing. But then there's other patients that walk in there. They've had a great experience since they were a kid. They'll just walk in there, open them out, doc, get it done, let's get out of here. So you got the two different kinds of patients. And it's so important about what happened in their childhood. So if they had bad experience in their childhood,
Like going to the dentist and everything.
Exactly.
Right.
You know, in the old days, the dentists were not as nice, you know.
Just get on the table, like just...
Table, you know, they used to actually use this technique in the old days. It's called, you know, hand on the mouth, right? You kind of put the hand on the kid's mouth. They can scream whatever they want. You give the injection.
No way.
And you drill. The parent will hold the kid still and you're drilling away. I mean, that's barbaric, right? I mean, if this day and age you did that, you know, I mean, I've heard some places they still do that. But
really?
Yeah. In third world countries, for sure.
Yeah.
They do that. But
it's like holding the kids down and...
You know, there's actually a funny story about that. So when I first started dentistry, I had this one mom brought their kid to me. Kid was absolutely terrified of dentists. I couldn't even get him to open the mouth.
Yeah.
So I told the mom, you know what, I'm going to refer you to the pediodontist. Pediodontist is a children's specialist, and they treat kids. And they would, you know, put the kid under or put the kid to sleep and do the work. Unfortunately, going to a pediodontist costs more money. And this parent did not have the money. She goes, please, doc, whatever you do, can you do something for my kid? I said, well, obviously I can't treat them during normal hours because they'll be screaming and scared all the rest of my patients away. So why don't you bring them in after hours?
After hours, yeah.
And then we'll see what we can do. So brings the child in. She was about 8 years old then.
Yeah.
So managed to do the work, but screaming and yelling and all those, you name it. My mom was helpful. She didn't. And funny enough, you know, I didn't see the kid for like almost 13 years. Saw them at age 21, and which was
came back to
me. Said, "Doc, I remember, you know, you took care of me." And she actually, you know, after that, she didn't get a bad experience. She was just anxious of her previous dentist, so she was very thankful. Mom came, she goes, "Yeah, you actually took care of this for us. We didn't have any money, and you really took care of us." So those kind of stories, like they mean something, you know, and you remember those moments. And at that time, I did not want to do anything like that. I was like I was sweating myself. Your heart's pounding, the kid's screaming. But, you know, at the end of the day, you want to get them out of pain. Yeah. And they had an infected tooth. They need to come out. So
that's a very sad, like inspiring, like gratifying moment.
At that time, it's not when you're doing it, but after it's gratifying. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, when you're going through it, but making that experience so much better for that patient.
100%.
But I think one of the things that a lot of us want to know is if you can go into your background story of how, you know, like what it took for you to become a dentist, how many years of schooling it took, and then at the same time, you know, when did you decide to become a dentist, and how was that kind of decision made?
Yeah, so, you know, in 1991, I graduated from Sentinel Secondary. High school. I went to UBC. You know, first 2 years at UBC, like most people, you're goofing around, your grades are not the best. And I remember my dad telling me, you know what, get your grades in order. You know, he wanted me to be a doctor. It's like, you got to be a doctor. So in third year, I actually did a rotation in the hospital. I did a rotation in the hospital. I'm like, you know what, I can't even stand the smell of the hospital. I just didn't like it.
So you wanted to become a doctor, or like
I was first wanted to be a doctor, a medical doctor. I wanted to be a medical doctor,
yeah.
So I went in there, did the rotation. I hated it. Absolutely hated it. I'm like, no, I don't want to be a doctor.
Yeah.
Then I went to my dentist, and Dr. Khoshnevis, since has retired. I think everyone's been to Dr. Khoshnevis once.
He's very well known.
He's well known. He's been around for a long time. He's one of the first, I think, dentists here in Vancouver, a Persian dentist.
Yeah.
I went to him and I had a little chat with him. I said, yeah, so tell me a little about dentistry. And he said, yeah, it's a great, you know, field. You choose your own hours. You don't work for the government. I'm like, oh, wow, this is great.
You can be like a business owner for yourself.
You can be a business owner. So really good points. And he said, as long as you like working with your hands. And I remember when I decided that let me do the dental exam. Let me do the DAT. And in that DAT test, you have to carve a little stone and you have to make it
like
look
a soap stone or
soap,
something.
and you have to cut it. You know, and for me, that came so naturally. I got 30 out of 30 on that. And it was like one of the top marks in all of Canada. And people were breaking their stones. They were nervous. And I was just like, boop, 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 done. So right away, I knew that I could work with my hands.
Hand and eye coordination, everything was really good.
Very good. And also, I don't know if you know this, but I played chess.
Yeah, I was going to actually bring that up. Yeah.
So chess is also hand-eye coordination, thinking ahead, and especially when you play speed chess. So, you know, we play 3-minute games.
I never thought about it like that. It's
all hand-eye coordination.
Really?
So those things, with the fact that I could do the soap, it could tell me, like, you know what, I need to get in a field where I'm using my hands. And also, my brother is a ENT, and he is also very good at his hands.
It runs in the family.
Runs the family. My sister's a dentist,
Nabi
so
family.
it's all in the hands, I think. So anything with the hands, we're good at.
So then you decided that dentistry was kind of like your calling because of the fact that you have good hand-eye coordination and it's something that you can relate to, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't into computers. I knew I wanted to have a job that, I could work at, and it would be a job that's low risk and has decent income. And that was, always... Our parents always said, if you want, we've come to Canada. That was my dad's thing. We've come to Canada because
immigrant
of you.
Family, yeah.
You have to, this is for you to be successful. We've sacrificed our life for your life. That's always been the story, right? So, and
kind of like that indirect pressure. There's
indirect pressure, but it was actually good pressure. It was always in a good way. Not like, oh, you have to do this, this. But it was in a good way. I'm very thankful to them for the sacrifice they made that, I could be here today. But at the end of the day, becoming a dentist, you have to really like what you do. We had so many people drop out of dental school because they didn't like it. Some people just don't like working in the mouth, right? It's not your normal thing to do, So you have to enjoy it.
Especially like a profession that a lot of people, as you said, they come in, they don't necessarily like to be there, right?
Exactly.
So you have to love what you're doing.
If you don't like dentistry, you cannot continue it. We have so many dentists that after a few years they actually quit. They go into other stuff. They become business owners. They actually manage dental offices. They don't actually do any work. In fact, one of the biggest corporations, their boss was a dentist, but he just started buying offices instead of working.
Oh, is that
they don't
right?
like to do the clinical work.
Okay,
yeah, so a lot of that happens, right? But you have to enjoy what you do if you want to be a dentist. You have to really have that rapport with the patient. It's a combination of managing the patient, problem solving in the mouth, and running a business. So it's a combination of a lot of things.
Okay, so you finished that dentistry school, 4 years. Did you get into UBC right away?
Yeah, UBC. I only applied to UBC. I wanted to be close to home. I was kind of spoiled by my parents. I would live at home. All my friends were living in dorms and had to do their own laundry and do their own dishes. I'm like, I got full service, So I used to do the drive every day. I found common friends that were doing dentistry, one of my best friends now, and we used to study together, drive together. So it made a lot of sense.
Okay. How was the experience being in dental school? One of the things that is part of this show is the dedication and the hard work that it takes to actually get to that end of the game, right? Like the career, and because sometimes you're just like, I got into dental school, I finished 4 years, 25 years later, right? But how hard was it?
It was hard. I mean, it's not an easy process, right? So first of all, to get in dental school, they pick 40 students out of 5,000-6,000 applicants, right? So you have to have the marks, right? You have to have the dexterity with your hands. That's what they look at the DAT exam. Once you get into dental school, then it's, the typical dental medical students are together for the first 2 years.
Yeah.
So you do the full anatomy you're studying.
Sciences,
but once you get in, it's pretty smooth sailing. As long as, you're studying, you're doing your work. You have to, in anything postgraduate, you have to study. You have to give it the time, right? So, staying at 11 o'clock every night, Sedgwick Library, UBC, you know the drive. You've been there. So you have to do that. It never ends. You have to do that. Having 8 exams in a row. I remember going from class to class. Exams are coming up. The last few lectures I'm memorizing as I'm going to the next class, reading that, memorizing, and then doing the exams back to back to back. It's all part of the process. But that's what makes you strong. That's what makes you be able to handle a full day of patients, a full schedule. Like if you don't go through that stuff, you will never be able to run a business. And I see it all the time. I see where all that suffering then is helping me now, right?
The fact that you had to do long hours.
100% long hours. You suffer,
stress.
you stress, you're thinking, multitasking, right? It's all about multitasking. And when you run an office, it's the same thing. You got this thing on your mind, you got this on your mind. So it's all there for a reason. They put you through hell so you can survive in the real world.
In the real world and stuff.
And that's what it's all about.
Did you have any moments during dental school where you're like, what am I doing? Like, what is going on? Like, some of those moments that you're like, oh my God, can I even handle this load and this stress?
Luckily, I didn't have that, but I know I had a lot of friends that went through that. I had a kind of friends that actually dropped out. And
it's very high dropout in medical.
They actually dropped out for a few years. they wandered around and they got back into it again. So yeah, it does happen. But luckily, like I said, I was very like, I want to get this done. I was very focused. I just, wanted to do my 4 years. Then I got into my GPR program, which was very helpful. I recommend it to anyone.
Do they still offer that? Like, do you?
I don't know if they do or not still, but if they do offer a postgraduate, even a 1 year, 2 year program, get it done because it makes a huge difference. Because I see it all the time now. A lot of dentists, they don't do root canals. They don't do difficult cases because they never got that exposure under a clinical setting.
Yeah, because you can't get into everything in the 4 years, right?
You can't risk doing a root canal when you've never done it before on a patient in the real world and getting sued, right? So you have to learn it under those settings.
That's fantastic. So 4 years of dental school was kind of smooth sailing for you. You were focused. You came out. You did your residency. Would you say that before getting into dental school, being part of like an immigrant family, and the reason I ask this question is that it comes up a lot where sometimes pursuing a career in medicine is not just a personal choice, or any medical field. Right. It's not a personal choice necessarily. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's pressures of society, pressures of the parents, especially in some immigrant parents, in some cultures is even more prevalent. And it's always like, either medical school or, becoming a lawyer or becoming an engineer, right? Yeah. Did you ever feel a stress like that where, you said, my dad always wanted me to become a doctor. Did that feel a bit of stress on you at all when you were a teenager or like a young adult? Or
I think more than anything, of course, when your parents, when you're younger, the parents say, I want you to be successful, I want you to do this, I want you to have a good job, be able to afford the nice things in life. You kind of like wave it off. But then when you get a little older and when they keep repeating that in your head, you're like, what, they're right. You go out there and you see that if you don't graduate with something that's going to actually be worthwhile and give you some sort of financial life, especially to live in this expensive city of Vancouver, you need something with a good income. Everything they said kind of made sense through the years.
Yeah.
But it was like always in the back of your mind, So 100%. I mean, there is obviously some pressure, there is some stress, but I think for me and for my family, the way my parents did it, it wasn't in a stressful way, more a guided way. Encouragement, a guided way. It's like, these are your options, and if what other options are there that would be guaranteed, would be, risk-free. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and I think you also noted the fact that when you were making this decision, you went and talked to that dentist that gave you some background into what it took and what kind of a lifestyle it is. I think that's something that really helped you. And even myself, when I wanted to decide to go into any sort of like medical field, right? Mm-hmm. Even episode 1 was my medical doctor who helped me quite a bit, right?
Exactly.
And it's part of like the reason that I actually started this show, to be able to have these conversations. So, the next generation of teenagers, young adults can make better decisions, because sometimes, having these answers is important, but sometimes, you have to figure out, is this even a profession is for you, minus the society's pressures or the parental pressure, if any, right?
Correct.
So it's correct that glad to see that your parents were very encouraging and, produced a very successful doctor. So tell me about, your kind of experiences as a doctor. You touched base on a couple of inspiring stories, but I'm sure there's some crazy stories out there too. And I think some of the stories our audiences would like to hear, day to day, what clinicians go through, right? Sometimes.
I think the most difficult patients are, like I said before, the ones that had issues as a childhood with the dentist. They had a lot of anxiety, so they don't go to dentists for years and years. And then when they come to the dentist, their teeth are just falling apart. There's nothing left. And those are the most difficult cases, because you have to present to the patient, hey, you know what, you're going to lose all your teeth. So then there's obviously the patient's in a chair, they're crying, they're anxious, they go through a lot of emotions. So you have to be very supportive and give them a lot of different options. But, in terms of crazy stories, if you want to hear the
a juicy one, man. I want to hear
juicy stories. I'll tell you a juicy story that shouldn't really happen, but it can happen to anyone. So, middle of surgery, your power goes off in the office.
No way.
What do you do? what do you do, right?
Dude,
So
that's scary, man.
It's scary. I mean, the surgery, the power goes off. So apparently there was an accident up the street, and they hit a power pole. The power goes off. So you're doing surgery, and all of a sudden, you're doing all this work, and you have nothing. So luckily, I have a good friend. I mentioned to Dr. Fashid Shabazi. That's a really good friend of mine. So I called him up. I said, Fashid, I need your help. I have a patient in the chair. He goes, yeah, bring him over. So I put him in the back of my car.
No way.
Drove all the way there with my assistant. Everything is mouth like this. Yeah, it was crazy. So we got there to his office, and I brought my assistant over too, and we ended up finishing the case there. Thank God everything went well. But yeah, so in stressful situations, you got to be, right away. You got to think, what options do I have? What can I do? So that's one of the many stories.
That's a pretty cool one, man.
Yeah. So
I don't think I've ever, well. Actually, no, we've had power, but like in my line of work, it's like, okay, sorry.
You can still crack a neck without power. You have your power.
As long as I see a little bit and I could feel what's going on, I could do it, right?
Yeah.
So 2010, you decided to open up a practice. Obviously, not all dentists open up businesses.
Yeah.
What made you decide to open a business and go that route and become an entrepreneur?
Yeah. So actually, no. My first practice that I took over was in 2000, 1 year after my GPR.
Oh, you bought in.
I bought in. That was an older guy that decided to retire.
I see.
It was in a group practice. I was there for about 10 years in that practice, but we noticed that the practice was getting too small and my patient load was getting too big. So I had about 6,000 patients at that time.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So I said, I'm going to, there was down the street, a practice went for sale. So I said, I'll try this practice and merge my patients in there. So I did that in 2010. And that was my practice called Eagle Creek Dental. So that went on, and then
2022 is when you
opened. 2022 when I
decided
to open up the
dental lounge
in the Brentwood. There was a big development there, right by the SkyTrain, great area. So I said, what, this is the time I can actually expand my office. I'm going to be 50 soon, so I said this is my last chance to open up another office.
Man, you're looking great. Man.
Again, it's the most important thing with dentistry is you have to combine it with some sort of exercise program, because if you're hunched over all day, as you know, right?
If, like as a clinician,
you have to take care of your body. If you don't take care of your body, you cannot do good dentistry. You just cannot.
Yeah, I have a lot of dentist patients actually. For some reason,
I'm sure.
I keep telling them to exercise, man. A lot of them are not exercising. I don't know what they're doing.
Even I've had your help a few times. I came in with sciatic nerve.
Because you're always kind of like in a weird
you're
position.
You're off balance. No matter what you do, you need to see your chiropractor daily.
Or weekly at least, right?
At least.
What's your experience been a business owner? What are some of the challenges that come with that? And what are some of the gratifications or pros and cons, right?
Yeah. I think as a business owner, I was always lucky to have really good staff. When I bought into that first office, there was a staff that was grandfathered in, and I had that staff for a long time. And when I went to my new office in 2010, again, I had staff that was there. So I was very lucky that way. My first recent experience of hiring new staff was in 2022 when I opened up my office from scratch. And it was challenging, finding the right staff, find the right people, and trying to create that team. It's all about the team. By myself, I'm nothing without my team. You need a good team around you.
Because they represent you, right? And like even your front desk staff, half of your practice is not.
You could do everything right in the back, and if the front desk staff don't, provide the service that you do, the patient's not going to have a good experience, right? And that's one of the things that we focus on: make sure everyone's on the same page. As you know, during COVID, it was very difficult. That was a very difficult time in dentistry, in all healthcare fields. So a lot of dental staff members actually quit working, and didn't come back. So we had a big shortage, and we still have a shortage in terms of hygienists, in terms of assistants. So slowly that's coming back, but it's still challenging for a lot of offices. And, we talk to dentists all the time, finding hygienists, finding assistants. So it is getting better, but we went through a challenging time with COVID.
Yeah, it definitely, I felt the challenge. Yeah, it was very difficult. And day to day, finding the right staff, especially if like someone leaves or, has a
100%.
change of career path, or sometimes people want to leave the city or the country, right? So finding that person that fits the culture, for me, it's always been the most important, right?
100%.
And it's the hardest thing to do. And there's a lot of, pros that comes with having a business, and I think a lot of practitioners think of that. But at least in my line of work, I would say only like 25% of people are business owners. Most are associates.
Exactly.
And you're a business owner too. So to the generation of dentists coming up, what is your advice? Is business ownership for everyone? You know what I mean? Because a lot of people, I think, especially in dentistry, any dentist I talk to, especially the younger dentists, are always like, oh, one day my dream is to own a business, a dental clinic. But why? Like, is that for everyone?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what's happened, and I'm not sure if that's the same in your field, but starting around 2015, 16, a lot of the culture from the US came into Canada. Actually, a big group called Dental Corp. They came into Canada and started buying up dental offices. So it was like, they're paying a lot of money for these dental offices.
Sometimes more than the dental office was even worth, right?
100%. Yeah. So, when I came out, the dental offices were very affordable. I mean, you could get a loan from the bank and set up an office. Now, to set up an office, it's gone up by, I would say almost 10 times. So
to set up a dental
office, and what it was back in 2000 when I got out.
20 years ago.
Yeah. And so for most dental students, they come out with already a big loan. You're already $300,000, $400,000 in debt.
Yeah.
For them to go and set up an office from scratch. And it's a risk. Just up from scratch, just sitting there with no patients. So the best thing for them to do is find an office with patients that they can take over, so that at least they'll have patients there. They'll have, a set cash flow to pay off their loans when they get into an office. It's very difficult for a new dentist to get out and start an office from scratch. So that's number one. Number two is, whether does dentists, do they want to become a business owner? A lot of associates I talk to, they don't want to be business owners. It's too much headache.
That's what I want to try to get into. It's like the headaches of it are sometimes not worth getting into it, because I think everyone just sees the glory. I have a big office. Look at this sign, right?
It again goes to your personality. What kind of, if you're a type A personality, you want a business owner, right? If you want to just be different personalities are different. You can have a personality that just wants to come in 9 to 5, do their work, and go home, not to worry about all the managerial stuff, all the background headaches of running a business.
And you just pay a percentage back to the clinic, and you don't have to worry about anything.
Exactly.
Right?
You get a commission. 35 to 40% is the norm. You take a commission, you take your paycheck, and you're done. You can take your vacations whenever you want to. When you're not in the office, you're not losing money. As a business owner, when you're not in the office, you're losing money, as you know. Right? So as an associate, if you're not there, you're not losing anything. You only make money when you're there. You don't make any money when you're not there. So it's much more relaxed lifestyle. And the newer generation, I see they're more like that. And that's one of the reasons these corporations got so successful, because they saw this new generation that just wants to be workers. They don't want to be owners.
Not be owners.
Exactly. So this is perfect. You know what? We'll own all these offices, and we have all these associates coming out that just want to work for us.
Yeah.
So in a way, I think it was more it was a combination of corporations coming in, the new associates coming in that didn't really want to be business owners, and it made a lot of sense for these corporations.
So when you said the price has gone up tenfold, like what is an average, like a 2,000 square foot office? I just want to get a sense of what the cost would be to set up shop.
I mean, I've heard, there's a different ranges, and of course there's people that do this for a living and they can give you the proper numbers. But I know to set up a dental office now, it'll cost you at least $2 million.
Average, like medium size.
Yeah, that's a medium, very medium size.
Nothing too big.
Nothing too fancy, nothing too big. And that's just leasehold improvements. You don't even own the space. You're leasing. The equipments are expensive. The chairs are expensive. Everything in dentistry is expensive.
$2 million to just set up shop, and then you have your lease of the building, the space, everything, all the expenses
all those things.
on top.
And then you have the expenses on top of that.
But a lot of banks do help with that, right? Because dental, there's a lot of programs, I think, for medical doctors and dentists, right?
Yeah, a lot of banks will loan you the money. Now, I don't know, there's limits to it. They look at your business proposal. They look at the area you're in. They see, if there's high rises going up in the area. So obviously location is key. when you want to set up an office. So you obviously have to hire, a realtor that knows what to look for, work with consulting companies that know, how much things are going to cost, what kind of contractors you use to build your office. All those things matter. And if you're really interested in building an office, that's the way to go.
All right, so $2 million down, and then also having to compete with these like big corporations, huh?
100%. So off the start, you're losing money every month, and you have to, then if you want to do marketing, and you have to spend money there, and there's a lot of other things that happen. That's why for most dental students coming out, my advice would be, if you want to own a business, work for a dentist that's older and hope to buy into that office.
But so say that opportunity doesn't come about. For example, like you're 2 or 3 years in, you're an associate, right? They look at your life, they look at, Dr. Nabi, Sherwin, successful doctor, young, he's got a couple of clinics, financially you're doing well, and, in terms of like your career and everything. They're like, I want to be like Dr. Nabi, right? What is your advice? Like, I still want it to be like encouraging for the new, dentists. Like, if they can find that dental office that has a retiring doctor or like a plan set in motion for her or him to buy into the practice like 5 or 10 years in the future, right? Yeah. How can the new dentist still dream about having a clinic and still be successful?
I think it really comes down to being very hungry and being a very hard worker, as you know. Before the show we were talking, you're working 7 days a week, whether it's in the office or outside the office. You have to be so motivated, so hungry, and so hardworking that you have to be ready to do it. And it's going to be tough, but you can get it done. But you have to be hardworking, and you have to be good at all aspects of dentistry. You can't just say, oh, you know what, I'm just
cannot be a like medium level.
You can't just say, you know what, I'm going to just do, smile design. You can't just say, I'm just going to do fillings. You have to be able to do everything. Patient comes in with pain, you got to be able to take care of the patient. In my office, when a patient comes in with pain, I don't let them leave the office without pain. I hear the patient tell me,
with pain. You only let them leave with pain.
They come in with pain, they leave without pain. That is the rule in my office, because I worked in the hospital, so I can handle these emergencies. A lot of dentists, even their own dentists, their patients are coming from another dentist's office. They're like, I called my dentist's office and he can't see me for 2 weeks. I'm like, you're his patient and he can't see you for 2 weeks. And I look at some of the dentist schedules and they have 5 patients booked in their day. Very relaxed, right? When you come to my office, you'll see my schedules like this, right? Slammed, because you want to see everyone, make sure everyone's happy, make sure everyone leaves. And you also have to be able to, problem solve, right? You get them out of pain or take them in a direction where they will be out of pain. And that is the key. You have to be able to do root canals. I tell everyone, you train to do root canals are the toughest thing in dentistry, but you got to be able to do root canals. You got to be able to do surgery. You got to be able to take out teeth when they hurt. If you're going to refer everything away, where's your business, right?
So these are kind of like extra courses you can take.
Extra courses you have to take, and that's one of the things in GPR I learned. I do implants. I took extra courses for implants. I went to Toronto. Flew to Toronto 5 times, 4-day courses. To do the implant course. So all those things you got to do, and you got to train yourself to become the complete dentist that can tackle any problem that comes through the door, right?
So basically, great patient, bedside manner, taking care of the patient, having their, the best, their best, wanting their best, right? Being very good at what you do, going above and beyond, at the same time, dedication and hard work.
Dedication and hard work. That's the
and you got to grind it out. You can't put
it's a grind.
4-hour shifts.
I'm 50. I'm still working 5 days a week. Over 40 hours a week, right? So.
And you're a successful dentist. You don't even have to do that, right? But you still.
I enjoy it.
You enjoy it.
I really do enjoy what I do, and that gives me the energy.
Yeah, and I remember like the first few years that you were practicing for so many years. I think you were working like 6 days a week, right?
Yeah, in the beginning, I was working Saturdays as well, Monday to Saturday. Making sure you establish that patient base, making sure you establish that loyalty in the community. It's very important. Those things are very important.
Yeah. So just hard work and grind work, right?
Hard work and grind work.
I think that's the kind of like the lesson for any generation of dentists, right? Or any in any profession. If you want to make it to the top and be successful, it might be still challenging, and it might be harder as there's more bottleneck effect, and at the same time bigger competition. But if you work hard, if you put the hours into it, if you grind, if you have a vision.
If you really want it, you can do it.
Yeah, because I want that to be very encouraging for the new generation. I hear a lot of, or feel a lot of distress and anxiety. And definitely some of these dentists, students, in the dental program or young dentists, I have some friends, and even in my profession, it's like, oh my God, it's so hard to open up a clinic. How can I be competitive?
Yeah.
It's $2 million down to even start, right? And then you have no patience. So, but there has to be still that encouragement, to say, you can do it, right?
100%. If you're willing to put in the work, you can do it. And it goes down to making sure you're an all-around dentist. Making sure you know how to treat every situation, and you can do that by taking courses and making yourself better all the time. Always learning. I'm still learning. I'm still taking courses at this age.
100%. It's always about
always
keeping
learning,
up and
keeping up. Yeah,
making sure. So some of these, hours that you put in obviously comes with stress. How do you manage that stress? How do you have a good work-life balance? How do you, attend to your family? I know you have 2 kids who are extremely active. You're a busy man. So how do you find that balance, and what is your secret sauce, man?
For me, I think I learned early on when I was actually in university that, being active or whether it's in the gym or whether it's going for a jog on the seawall or whether it's doing those kind of things really helped me with my studies. And then I found out when I became a dentist, it helped me a lot with my work. So that's been part of my life. So staying active.
It's like bread and butter for you.
Bread and butter. It's like when I go to sleep at night, the first thing I think about is what am I going to do my workout before I go to work? That's the first thing on my mind. So it's very important that is the most important part of my life. It's
right?
Discipline and consistency. You don't have to, go crazy every time. You just got to be consistent. That's the key. And then for me, obviously my kids, they keep me busy after work. They're involved with soccer, with tennis. So I'm taking them to soccer practice and tennis, and that gives me a lot of energy just watching them and seeing how they develop in the sports that they enjoy, and that itself is really motivating for me.
Yeah, it's always like just keeping sight of everything, right? Like it's not just a career that's important. I think some of the most successful practitioners, doctors, and even anyone in any industry that I find is that they put the hours in, but also they put the hours in for their family.
It's work-life balance.
Work-life balance.
100% work-life balance, and you got to know when to shut it off, deal with the family, and then when to get back on again. Yeah,
exactly. I know. Do you still play a lot of chess?
I play chess online.
Does that help with kind of like calming you down a little bit?
100%. It's a great, great way to release my stress. I play chess online, and actually it's funny because one of my patients saw me playing chess while I was on the elliptical machine. That's where I play. Yeah. So when I'm biking or so I played on the iPad, and I play chess online, and it's a great way for me to exercise the brain and the body.
Didn't you go to like the Pan American Games or something for chess?
Yeah,
you're a pretty good chess player, man, right?
So in 1991, I won the Canadian Junior Chess Championships 3 years in a row, 1993.
No way, man.
At one point, I actually wanted that to be my career. So I wanted to be a grandmaster.
There you go. Now we found something.
I wanted to be a grandmaster, yeah. But then I looked it up, and very few grandmasters do well financially. There was nothing in it. So
unless you're like Gary Kasparov
or Magnus Carlsen.
Yeah. Those guys
but it was really interesting. I really enjoyed playing chess. And I remember even when I was in university, I would always have my chess book beside me when I was studying. So one of my buddies would say, how do you focus on this and study chess at the same time? And I just enjoyed it. I could envision the whole board and memorize moves, and it came naturally to me. So I really enjoyed that.
Memory, right? Like,
100%. Yeah, for me, it came naturally.
Very interesting. Like I'm a pretty okay chess player, not too bad. Well, maybe you should play with us.
Play right now.
I want to like get beaten by you, but I definitely want to see what your level is like. But I used to play chess in between my study sessions. So I would go and like study that 11 p.m. whatever you're studying, right? Take a break. go like do a quick like blitz game, like 5 minutes,
those are the
10
best.
minutes.
Yeah.
For some reason, it just reset my mind. I don't know why. Like it didn't make me, let's say, it actually energized me. And then I'm like, oh, now I'm going to go back to study. I don't know why that helped me so much.
It's really interesting. They've done a lot of studies actually with chess and with, thinking. They've done studies that actually chess is a way of problem solving because you're always problem solving on the board. And it really helps with life too because you're always problem solving in life. I'm teaching my kids chess and I've got them into it. They're actually decent players. So
maybe I should play your kids first and then come
it's
and
funny.
play.
We were actually on a trip and my kids saw this adult playing chess and he actually went challenge and actually beat the adult.
No way.
And he
Which
came
one?
back to
Arman?
me.
Is it older?
Arman, yeah. Arman, the older one. Yeah, he's playing. So he's enjoying it.
That's crazy, man. That's fantastic. But I have one more question about chess. It has nothing to do with our segment, but you said it's in hand and eye coordination. I never thought about it like that. Why is it hand and eye coordination?
So I don't know if you've ever watched these grandmasters
I do watch it actually. I watch on
chess.
TikTok a lot, man.
Yeah. They play. So it's, you're thinking and you're moving with your hands really fast. Not everyone can do that. They'll end up knocking over pieces and you can get disqualified. So you're able to move quickly and think
like
about
know
it at the
exactly
same time.
what to do. It's kind of like you're not even thinking about it, you're just doing it.
Yeah, they always used to call me fast hands because in the last 10 seconds of the game, I would beat the opponent. Yeah.
So if you knock over the pieces,
you lose time, you get disqualified. Yeah.
Man, I never thought about it. You always think I associate chess with just like just pure mental game, but it's just like
speed chess has really changed chess. I think it's made it way more fun and interesting.
So going back to the stress management and the grind work and everything, and the fact that you're exercising 6-7 days a week and doesn't have to be everything, right? Yeah. Good sleep, good stress management, family time. What is your advice to the generation of doctors to be, practitioners to be nowadays that, every year it seems like medicine and, it gets like harder and harder, right? Like, and it gets like more studies they have to do and more things they have to deal with. And so what is your advice? Like how do you pace yourself?
I think, I don't know. I remember the program at Dentistry was becoming more an all-round program. So meaning, be involved in more things, play sports, do other things besides just academics. You got to be well-rounded. I think they've gone away from just the grades, which is a good thing.
To get people in, or when they're in?
To get people in during the interview stage. They want an all-around person. They don't want just someone that's getting 100% in marks but doesn't have any other things. Volunteer. Do one of those trips where you're helping out people, in poor countries. Those things really help and look good on your resume to get into dental school. And of course, the DAT exam, that's a separate issue on its own. You have to really, some people have to really practice on that and get that going to get into dental school. But again, it's getting harder. I mean, of course, everything is getting harder. In medical school, I heard, you got to get like a 98% average to get in, which is just thinking about that.
98%. And then, as you said, like, it's what they take like 200 applicants in medical school, 50 maybe in dental school, out of like hundreds, if not thousands, right? So like, I think my interview before, I think we talked about how it's about like a less than 10% success rate to get into any sort of medical program, right?
100%.
So that what is your advice, obviously, for the generation of students who are studying, wanting to get into it, but they fail an exam to get in, or they fail their first time getting into dental school, as I said, 95% of people don't get in the first time, right?
No, it's true.
And what is your advice, and whether or not you have had any failures or setbacks yourself, and how did you come out of it?
Yeah, so actually I have a funny story about that. I still get a reoccurring nightmare. And this is a nightmare. I remember I was in fourth year, undergrad. I was applying for dental school. I had 90% average, above a 90 in all my courses except for one course.
90% is good. What?
Psychology. Wow. I was getting 73%. And
dude, that was my best mark in UBC.
This course, this teacher, I don't know what it was. I tried everything with her.
Yeah.
And I remember one day I just walked. I said, look at my other grades. I'm applying for dental school. Can you please help me out here on this? Because everything was subjective with psychology. My major was math. Math, 100%. Like those things I'm good at. With subjective things where, you have to, the marks are subjective, explain things. That wasn't my strong point. So I remember I still had this dream walking to that teacher and begging her to give me a better mark. And even now, sometimes I'll wake up thinking about that, thinking I didn't get into dental school because of this course. So yeah, that was one of my biggest fears. But I've had friends that didn't get in dental school the first time, the second time, they got in the third time. So don't give up. Just, find out where your weaknesses are and work on those. Because
that's not a failure. Not getting in is not a failure. It's sometimes it just doesn't happen.
One of my classmates at that time, I got in dental school very young. When I moved to Canada, I skipped a grade, so I was always younger than everyone else.
Yeah.
But when I got in dental school in 1995, I was 21 years old. So at 21, I got in. One of my classmates was 40 years old. She was 40 years old. She had just gone through a divorce, and she wanted to start her life over again. And I remember her. She was the nicest lady. And I was like, she's 40, I'm 21. Like, why is she doing this now? But funny enough, we did dental school together. I helped her a lot, and we were really close. And after 15 years, I saw her. She owned her own practice. She was very successful. And she had done everything she wanted in life, even though she started so late. So don't be in a rush to get out and get in. There's always time to get to your dreams.
Yeah.
Right. And that's one of the things. I was always in a rush. I was like, do this, do this, do this, do this. But
me too.
Even, so I never, took 2 years off and traveled. I never did that, which I regret now, because now once you fall into this, what we call a rat race or this work schedule, it's hard to do that. But for her, I was so impressed that she did it at age 40. So my advice is don't give up. There's always time. You can always change your career. And if you really want to get into dentistry or medicine, you just got to work hard and keep at it.
Yeah, and it will eventually happen, right? Because you got to look at it as a lifespan career, right?
100%.
You're there 30 to 40 years, a couple of years setback. It's not even a setback. It's just relearning. Getting better.
As you get more mature, as you get older and you keep applying, the applicants, the interviewers actually like that. They're like, this person really wants to be a dentist or a doctor. They've tried 3 times, 4 times, and they're getting better at those things. You will eventually get into the system.
Yeah. So it's not a failure. Get up, take a step forward, right?
Exactly.
And make sure that you're not giving up on your dream. If it's a dream, you got to go after it,
100%.
right? It doesn't matter if it's like a couple of years later, but
there
eventually
is no rush. There is no rush.
That's actually a very good point. And one of the things that I regret, yes, maybe regret is a strong word, but something if I go back in time and change was that I was always like, okay, like high school, undergrad,
that's right.
working,
Like,
taking courses in the summer, it's
Yeah.
like boom, 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 like
courses in summer,
graduate school.
exactly.
It's like, oh my God, take a summer off, like work, travel, and it's like now, obviously I'm successful. I got to, my career, path sooner, but I'm like, if I was here a couple of years later, it's not a big deal.
Exactly. Those years down there don't cost you anything. These years cost you. If you take 2 years off, you can't do that as a business owner.
I can't.
Right.
I have more money now to travel, but I can't travel because I don't have the
you're
time.
running a business.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I can only take like a week off, right?
Enjoy life when you're young.
Yeah, so that's something I would change, and so
100%.
So it seems like the future for dentists to be and practitioners to be is still very bright and possible.
100%. I think I see, I've worked with a lot of young dentists coming out and mentored them. And again, if anyone wants to come and shadow me in my office, they're more than welcome to. But my advice is, become an all-around dentist. Learn as much about dentistry as possible. Don't just stick to 1 or 2 things that you like. Otherwise, it's very hard for you to grow your business or become successful.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point. Yeah, just work hard, man, and just figure it out, shadow, observe, ask questions, make the right decision. Don't be in a rush, right?
Don't be in a rush. Learn.
And, there's never a setback or a failure, It's just a process.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a process.
Exactly.
Bit of a divergence. I know I saw a clip that you did about vaping. It has nothing to do with our segment. How bad, man, is vaping compared to smoking? Like, is it bad? Is it not bad? Like,
the problem we're seeing now, the industry brought in vaping, and it was almost like, okay, you know what? I'm going to quit smoking and do vaping instead because it's less harmful. The problem with vaping is that you're doing it way more because it's so convenient.
Yeah,
it's so convenient. Yep. It's always important. It's almost like, every minute they're vaping now. So it does damage your gums. It stains your teeth, of course, and the medical damages to your lungs, to your health, chemicals.
So it has all that stuff similar to smoking, maybe not as much.
Not as much, but you're doing it now way more.
Way more frequent.
So instead of going into the garage or a back alley and smoking, you're doing it right at your workplace. You're stepping out, doing quick smoke, come back. So it is harmful, and especially to the youth now. I know
Kids are doing it, man. 10, 12.
I know in my son's grade now, he says, Dad, there's kids vaping, and it's scary at age 14.
Right? Yeah.
They're getting hooked onto these things, right? They're getting a little bit of a buzz or high from it, and they're addicted. They like it, and this is how they're hooking them on. And this is unfortunate. It should be completely banned, in my opinion. And it's become really, really bad.
Yeah, it's become so frequent, so common. I see so many kids have like vapes, right? Like they're 10, 12.
I have kids. I'm taking out their wisdom teeth, and they're like, I'm like, do you smoke or vape? I vape. I don't tell my parents. I'm like, and I can't tell my parents. It's confidential. But
is it
89% of the time, because when you're taking out teeth, you don't want any smoke there because it doesn't allow the healing. So yeah, it's very common. It's very common.
Is it confidential if it's like under 18 and you're seeing that it's causing them quite a bit of harm?
Yeah, technically anything that patient tells you in a chair, you cannot share with the parent.
Yeah, it's becoming one of those, like, I have moments like that, but if I see that it's causing harm, sometimes I have to say it in front of, like, hey, could you give me permission to talk to your parents? But it's becoming such an interesting thing. But I don't know why the medical society or like the
they're too powerful. These companies are too powerful. It's like smoking. I mean, even on the cigarette package shows the gum disease, shows you're getting cancer, but people are still smoking. They get hooked on it, right?
Yeah, I think Ministry of Health in Canada has to step up and make some changes. Well, thanks for this. a bit of a digression, but I just wanted to know, because I think it's become such and people were asking me, like, ask about this specific question. So come to the end of our segment. We have this part of our segment. We always ask all the practitioners, if you would go back in time, would you have picked the same profession? If no, what would you have done differently? If yes, what would you have said to the young doctor, well, not doctor yet, Dr. Sherwin Nabi in his youth age?
So we kind of touched a little bit about that. So I think if I had to go back in time, I wouldn't be in such a rush to get to where I am now.
Yeah.
I would definitely take those summers and maybe travel a little bit more.
Take your time with it.
Take my time with it, because, like I said, once you get onto the system, once you get into dental school and then become a business owner, it's hard to get that time back. But I would definitely choose a profession if I had to do it over again. I love what I do. I'm very grateful to my patients, and I get so much positive energy from them when they're happy with the work I do for them, that it just gives me so much energy and so much good, a good high or good dopamine feeling that it gets me through my day.
That's fantastic, man. You're a great doctor, clinician.
Thank you.
All-rounded person. Privileged to have you here, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for
Appreciate
coming,
it. Thanks for your time.